Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the MLB slate for Tuesday. We have a 13-game slate tonight, starting at 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get right into it. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already. We have a lot of options to choose from today. Hopefully, today goes well. Baseball has been kind of tough. Some of the stacks haven't been working out, but hopefully everything comes together today. Feeling good about it. Let's get ahead and get right into it. So looking at the totals for this slate, we have a couple of teams with some high totals. The Yankees sitting at one of the higher totals on the slate. Pretty disappointing yesterday. They barely were able to hit Matt Harvey. He kind of cruised. They got some damage done off their bullpen, but they're facing Bruce Zimmerman now, another lefty. Zimmerman hasn't been very good this year. Look at his numbers. And this Yankees team still has a ton of pop with Stanton, who mashes lefties, Judge, who's very good against lefties, Torres, who hasn't got it going yet this year, still doesn't have a home run on the season. But for a guy like Bruce Zimmerman's given up 4 home runs, doesn't really strike people out that much, only 15 Ks in 21 innings. And especially in this ballpark, expect the Yankees to do some damage. So maybe some people jump off of them because they haven't been doing great recently in terms of stacks. But I love getting to Giancarlo Stanton at only $4,700 on DraftKings. Urshela has been hitting the ball very well. He's only $3,100. You got Hicks, only $3,000. Frazier's only $2,700. The Yankees are going to be my top stack of the slate. Other stacks that look appealing to me are the Braves look good against Trevor Williams. They are very expensive, so they probably will be like a secondary stack because $6,200, $5,900, $5,353 for their top 4 hitters will be kind of tough to get to unless you go cheap with your pitchers, but I kind of like paying up for one of my pitchers today at least. So besides the Braves and the Yankees, I think the Angels look fine against Foltynewicz. They got Rendon back in their lineup last night, so that just makes their stack a lot better, especially Ohtani, Trout, Rendon, Walsh. Look like a great stack. You can go Upton as a cheap play, and even Pujols have been showing off some pop this year. I think he has 5 home runs now, so the Angels look like a good stack. And then I think the Padres are a pretty appealing stack against Merrill Kelly. Kelly was pretty good last year, but he hasn't gotten going yet this year. He came over from, I think he pitched in the Korean or some other overseas league before last year, but he hasn't been good at all this year. Only 7.71 ERA, only 13 strikeouts, giving up 4 home runs. This Padres team is super powerful, and just looking at his numbers on Fangraphs, so far he's given up a 574 slugging to right-handed hitters, 553 to lefties. The xFIP is pretty high against righties, 5.25. Strikeouts are way down against both sides of the plate. So love the Padres, especially as a late, kind of like a late hammer stack against Merrill Kelly. And you could look to the Dodgers, as always, against Jeff Hoffman, who's not that scary of a pitcher. But I would probably go Yankees are my favorite, Padres are my second favorite. Then I'd go Angels, probably Braves in just terms of scoring runs, and then the Dodgers. You could look to the Astros as well, but I think Marco Gonzalez is a much better pitcher than some of these other guys on the slate, so I will always look to some righties against Gonzalez, especially Altuve now that he's back. Bregman, Carrera make for a decent stack, but they're probably like my 5th team to look at today. And then pitching-wise, on DraftKings, you got Max Scherzer, is $10,900. He looks appealing against the Blue Jays. He has been great this year. He kind of was in a little bit of trouble in the first inning last start against the Cardinals, but he managed through it. He's been good. He goes deep into games. You can also go to Walker Buehler, save $700. He gets a great matchup in terms of just the Reds having a 3.0 total. He also goes deep into games. You can't really go wrong with either of those 2 top-end pitching options. It is surprising that the Blue Jays have a plus 4 run total, so it's a good ballpark to hit in since they're not playing in Canada. So that could be a reason. So I would probably side with Walker Buehler. Or you can go Lucas Giolito, who still gives you a lot of upside. He got absolutely rocked against the Red Sox last start, but I expect him to bounce back against this Tigers team with a bunch of strikeouts. So he also looks like a second guy that you can plug in as your SP2 or play him as your SP1. Then Javier, Paddock, they're kind of secondary options for me. I think Eflin is a SP2 option. I probably wouldn't play him as my SP1. And then for SP2 plays today, you have potentially going down to Aaron Sanchez at $7,200. He's been pretty solid this year, 1.83 ERA. The strikeouts are not as high as other pitchers, but he kind of limits damage. He's pitching at home in a great ballpark, so he makes a lot of sense as an SP2 if you wanted to save some money. Or you can go to Frankie Montas, who gives you upside, but he also can get rocked. So he's got rocked in 2 out of his 4 starts. This Rays lineup is all right, middle of the pack. So he's probably behind Sanchez for me. And then I don't really want to go to Martinez, Urania, Foltzy, any of these other SP2 options. I don't think I have a lot of interest in. So for me, I'm going to go Walker Buehler, SP1, and then I'm going to go with Sanchez as an SP2. I just like both of their matchups. They both pitching in good pitching pitching friendly ballparks and against offenses that the Reds have a good offense, but they've been starting Blandino as their leadoff hitter. Doesn't give them much pop. But it looks like maybe Winker will be back today. We'll see what they decide to do. Her lineup, if they get Moustakas back, is looking kind of solid, but still think Buehler can have success against them. So Buehler, Sanchez, and then loading up on some of these Yankees bats, the Padres, some of these other pitchers, against facing like bottom of the order pitchers. A lot of these teams are on their 4th or 5th starters today, so there are a lot of stacks that look appealing, but I got to start with the Yankee stack and go with like Stanton at only $4,700. He absolutely mashes lefties. Been having a tough season, only 192 batting average. He does have 5 home runs, but this ballpark is just so good to hit, and even if Stanton doesn't get the complete barrel on the ball, he should be able to hit one out if he at least makes some decent contact. So gotta go with Stanton as a tremendous option. And then Urshela is also just really, really cheap, $3,100 for him. Doesn't make a lot of sense. He's been hitting the ball very well, batting with a 500 slugging in his last 10 games. He hits for power. He also is very good against lefties. Now, looking at his career numbers, 275 average against lefties with 10 home runs. The ISO is about 150. And slugging percentage over 400. So far this year, he's been pretty solid against them. And we'll look at last year for a little bit of a bigger sample size. He batted just 233 with almost only 30 at bats, so that's pretty small. Look back at 2019. Batted 303 with 8 home runs. So he does have pop against lefties, and Bruce Zimmerman is definitely not a scary pitcher. So Urshela, Stanton are my favorite Yankees to target. And then looking at the Padres here, there's just so many teams to target on the slate that I'm mainly just focusing on the stacks here. You can always go with some one-offs, but when you have this many games on the slate, it's a good chance that some of these teams will pop off. So I really like to stick to stacking on these big slates. But Will Myers is very affordable at $4,400. He's been got off to a great start to the season. He's still been hitting the ball very well. 4 home runs, 268 batting average. You have Tatis been absolutely on fire. He's $5,400. Think we can get him if you go cheap with Urshela as your third base option. He gives you speed, power. Just been amazing since he's been back. He already has 7 home runs, even though he's only played in 15 games because he's missed, at least a few. Missed at least like 5 or 6 when he was on the injured list. So Tatis, Stanton, Urshela looking like great plays. And then for the last hitter here, I like first base option here on the Padres. It's Eric Hosmer. It's only $4,300. Really nice price tag for him. He's been having a good season, hitting over 300, 3 home runs. He gives you pop, gets on base, hits for power, hits for high average, and fits in perfectly as a member of your Padres stack. So that's pretty much it for this one. Not going to go through every single player that looks appealing, but looking at the stacks, like I mentioned, Yankee stack, Padres stack looks very good. The Braves look fine. The Dodgers, some of these Angels, a lot of these teams that have good offenses are facing bad pitchers. So those would be the ones to target. And then Buehler and Sanchez as your pitchers, both with safety, with a lot of upside, especially for Buehler. So that's it for DK. Let's look at FanDuel. Okay, FanDuel pitching-wise, you have Scherzer, Giolito, Buehler as your top 3 to pick from. It's a big difference between Buehler and Max Scherzer on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings, but I'd still side with Buehler. Definitely more so on FanDuel. DraftKings, you can make an argument to get up to Scherzer or go to Giolito. But like Buehler, he's one of the few Dodgers pitchers that they let go over 90, 100-plus pitches. Wanted to go cheap, you can go to maybe Montas as a tournament option, Paddock. And then you have Sanchez is only 67. He sometimes doesn't give you that much upside on FanDuel just because the Giants sometimes pull their pitchers early with Gabe Kapler, so it's a little bit risky. But if you wanted to pay up for your bats, you could do that. But with Buehler, I find it easy to get to the stacks I want. So catcher, first base option. You can go up for Hosmer. He is sitting at only $3,000, so he's pretty affordable to get to. Wanted to look at some Yankees bats. You have Gary Sanchez against a lefty at only $2,400. He hasn't been having a good season. He's after his opening day home run. He's only batting 182, but still would play him in part of your Yankee stacks. Those will be the two that I'm most interested in. If you want to go all the way up, you can go to Abreu. Hoskins been hitting the ball very well recently. If you want to target against Martinez, he's been, Phillies did put up 6 runs against him earlier this year. At second base, Torres has been really bad, but I have to consider going to him. He's only $2,500, batting like 5th or 6th in the lineup. He hasn't shown off his power yet, has no home runs on the season, only 2 RBIs, but he's been very, very good last couple of years. I expect him to get back on track. Don't know why he's been off to this cold of a start, but it's a great spot for him to get back on track. So $2,500 as part of your Yankee stacks. He has to be a member. At third base, you have Machado, who looks appealing. You have Urshela, also is super affordable. He's only $2,400, so it's very easy to pay up at pitcher and go with a Yankee stack with like Torres, Urshela, are just way too cheap. Both guys are affordable. Urshela's been a lot better than Torres. He's $100 cheaper than him. And then at shortstop, gonna go with Tatis again. Gonna pay up for him. Love the Padres today against Merrill Kelly. I think they should do some damage late tonight. And getting Tatis at only at $4,400 is expensive, but shortstop is a position where I usually like to spend up just because you have a lot of guys with pop. You have Tatis, Anderson, Bogart's been having a great season. Correa against a lefty, Seager. This position is always loaded, so I usually try to spend up at shortstop. And then in the outfield, you have Stan at a pretty good price tag, but another Padre that's very affordable is Will Myers. It's only $2,700. Gives you pop. He's been having a good season so far. He's been cold a little bit, but he still gives you upside as he's shown in the last couple games. He's had 3 stolen bases against the Dodgers. Aggressive on the base pass. Another thing about the Padres is that they have guys that like to steal bases. Tatis, Myers, even Machado has like 4 or 5 stolen bases. Grisham. So this is a fun team to stack up. So that's it for the video. Hopefully the Yankees bats come through. Hopefully the Padres come through today. Those will be my 2 most favorite stacks of the board. Thanks for watching, and good luck today.